Chapter 3 of Deliver Me from Eva by Paul Bailey. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ben Tucker. Chapter 3. The unanswerable depths of Eva's revealment disturbed me some, but the thrill and discovery of her profound musical gift, and a natural pride in her accomplishment, quickly allayed my perturbed state of mind. Though every hour with her revealed new and enticing facts, never did she flaunt knowledge or act toward me in manner other than the warm and sympathetic wife. The exciting discovery of her musicianship had shown one facet of her nature, and I was determined to uncover all the luster of her unique personality. I took her to the DeWeiss galleries, and there before the walled masterpieces I gently probed her on technique and the schools which had brought them forth. Blandly and innocently she volunteered facts and anecdotes on artists and paintings, beyond any knowledge I had or could possess. Of books she could intelligently discuss practically any author of consequence since Chaucer. When I revealed how completely I was bested intellectually, I surrendered to envious silence regarding these things. Strangely, her intellectual stature had not been gained at the expense of the more gracious charms which men so readily admire. Her every thought was for me. Her soft voice and attentive hand were mine at every hour. She freely gave to full possession whenever impulse stirred me. By the time our week had ended and we had entrained for Los Angeles, I had forgotten my misgivings, was gloating with pride over my conquest, and happy as any man could possibly be. The return was like an awakening from a dream of transcendent perfection. Mundane affairs of daily work, plus the added burden of my San Francisco neglect, now mockingly stared me in the face. I had neither inclination nor desire to again assume the monotonous charges and office cares of Allard and Brinkley. My professional trip had been a failure in every sense. There remained, too, the onerous chore of informing my fiancée, Edith Brinkley, of my broken faith with her, and the disastrous consequence of my change of heart. The steadfast and kindly Edith would take it the hard way, I knew for a certainty. Her father, my law partner, would never view my breach of faith with complacency. Moreover, there was the disquieting thought of Eva's own stand regarding our future plans. Not that she raised any verbal clamor against my townhouse apartment, but I sensed and knew her heart was set on our living at Pasadena, in the home so oddly prepared in advance for our nuptial sojourn. I had my pride, and my capitulation to her desire was only a partial one, occasioned by a wire from the townhouse just before we entrained south, that it would take 2 weeks to prepare my apartment to the specifications ordered. Eva's reaction to the disappointing telegram was, "Now there's no reason why you can't at least try Thalamus." "Thalamus?" I had asked. "What a strange name for a house." "You don't like it?" "Well, I hardly know," I had confessed. "In pronunciation it has a subtle, almost musical quality. Its meaning is your secret." "It's much more than just a name, Mark dearest. You'll understand when you see it." And so Eva won, completely and easily. Her car met us at Union Station in Los Angeles on such an April day as only Southern California can provide. The sleek, dark limousine, driven by a thick-jowled, untalkative driver who wore only a chauffeur's cap as livery, and whom Eva addressed as Castleman, whisked us through the Elysian Hills tunnels and on to the smooth expanse of the Arroyo Parkway. Out through the green foothills wound the ribbon of concrete as the big Cadillac wheeled us with fleet speed and sureness. My bride patted my hand as if to assure me, and in that moment I was happy and content. At South Pasadena we swung off the speedway and rolled northward along the canyoned margins of the Arroyo Seco. The oak-hidden estates, the lush natural growth of this scenic spot, and the serene blue of the cloudless sky seemed to me as incredibly lovely as a divine vision. And the happiness written on Eva's face enhanced even the glory of the morning. "I think you're glad to get home," I teased, leaning softly to her with every curve of the speeding car. "Oh, Mark, our Thalamus is the most perfect spot in all the world." Her sigh of contentment was like the whispered poetry of a summer breeze. "Every matchless and soul-feeding thing is focused as through a giant glass upon it. You'd have to be a mystic to understand." "I've none of the mystic in my makeup," I laughed. She flung a sharp defensive glance. "Oh, but you have. You truly have." I lighted both our cigarettes and leaned comfortably back. Castleman, whose webbed red neck proclaimed him older than I had thought, seemed to my suspicious eyes a little too interested in our conversation. But my role of groom had, I knew, made me overtly sensitive, and so I dismissed my thoughts on Castleman to more fully bask in the charm of Ava's bird-like eagerness and the uninhibited manner she cocked her head and arched her girlishly cleft chin. "It's a nice spot of earth, all right," I agreed. "Those old mountains smile down mighty pretty out here." That was an understatement, and I knew it, for the purple-green crags of the Sierra Madres folded this rolling land in a crescent of loveliness that had me a trifle drunk with the glory of it. "What will Dr. Craner and Brother Osmond say when Ava comes tripping home with a man they've never seen?" The question reflected the increasingly perturbed state of my mind, as every mile fetched me nearer the inevitable scene I must face.
"They expect you, silly."
Castleman had one of his big ears cocked to our conversation, but Ava seemed not to mind. "Then you wired them from San Francisco?"
"No."
"How in the devil do they know, then?"
"You'd hardly understand."
"I guess not," I hopelessly sighed. "You're a baffling creature, Ava. But lead on to Thalamus, and I do hope they like me." We swung right from off the canyon boulevard to the modest entrance of the Craner estate, a stone-pillared gateway wreathed in ivory and scarlet-flowering bougainvilleas. No man from the street, by viewing the shady, unobtrusive simplicity of the thing, might have guessed the acreage it served, nor the devil's symphony of Baroque horror for which it was to stand entry. The winding drive led through a quarter-mile of native oaks and sycamores. We soon reached a point where the drive forked in two directions, and Castleman slowed the car.
"To Thalamus first,"
Ava directed. The big limousine sped left over a driveway newly cut and freshly macadamized. Through the dense timber and shrub growth I could discern no human habitation. In such a center of inflated real estate values as in California, I could only guess at the fabulous worth of such a holding as the Craner estate. When, as the Cadillac rounded a wooded curve and Thalamus burst to view, I could only whistle amazement. The house was neither extremely large nor ostentatious. It was beauty, and it was perfection. Like an architect's dream of the ultimate, it complemented the richness of its natural setting, and the richness of its natural setting complemented it. In a land where claptrap construction of wood, paper, and stucco was the accepted thing, it was a pleasing revelation to view a house reared with an artist's touch from natural tinted rocks and shales of California's mountain terrain. It was two-storied, slate-roofed, with leaded, multi-paned windows that swung on their curved casements. Bedded flowers and shrubs peeked from the breaks in its flag-stoned forecourt. Ava stopped the car for my admiring benefit.
"Well, here it is,"
she said.
"Here's Thalamus."
"Beautiful," I sighed. "It is beautiful." I gazed for a moment with an aesthete's delight. The purr of the motor was the only sound breaking the almost eerie stillness. "Who was your architect, Ava? Who designed the house?"
"I did,"
she said simply. "You?"
"Why, Mark, what's so odd about that?"
I shook my head in abject bewilderment. "Nothing, I suppose, from what I'm beginning to observe."
"The soul yearns always for perfection. I've tried to embody in Thalamus all the points made known to me."
"Points?"
"Well, take for instance the eye, an appended part of the brain. The eye abhors an angle. To it a curve is always more pleasing than a straight line. Nowhere in this house is there a direct angle or straight line. You perceive that even the roof is undulating, like nature's pattern in hills and mountains. Windows are oval or ellipsoidal in shape. The whole effect is one of softness. Thalamus is unobtrusive and in harmony with every hill and tree within your range of vision. You could sit for hours and never weary looking at it. For us, I wanted the nearest thing to perfection." The inexplicable mystery of Ava's prenuptial planning mercilessly flogged again at my thoughts. The recesses of my mind could conjure for me no adequate answer. Either she was smugly sure of herself, or was possessed of an uncanny sense of timing. She'd built Thalamus to suit an unknown husband, and here, in answer to strangest design and intent,
was the unknown husband gloating over it with admiration and pride. "Where in heaven's name did you learn all these things?"
"Father was my preceptor, of course, when he built his own house, which he calls the Cradle of Light, and which leads off from the road's other turn. The infinite voice had not made all things known to him. The Cradle of Light is much more conventional, as you will note when you see it."
She stopped a moment, poised in thought.
"But you'll find nothing conventional about Father,"
she added reflectively. Ava touched Castleman's shoulder. The car glided up the driveway. "So far as I can see, there's nothing conventional about any of the Craners." For a moment she stared downward at her patent leather Oxford.
"Perhaps now is the time to tell you," she said, "rather than have you risk shock at discovery."
"At what discovery?" I asked, with new interest.
"My father, though mentally a giant, and psychically a master, is, in body, the saddest of misfits."
She paused again, and laid her hand on mine.
"Mark,"
she almost whispered,
"my father was born without ears, and he was born without legs."
End of chapter 3.